Well, Coastline for the last map of the day, and let me tell you, Playday 1 has been an absolute banger so far. Plenty of words spat back and forth between teams and everything else in between, and I don't expect this to be any different, even though these guys are clearly some friends on certain levels. But we're already going to have some bans coming out that are pretty unique. 2 right off rip going to be removed. Not only Buck, but Zofia also getting banned away. A lot of the teams today prioritizing some awkward bans up against these teams to really limit what they can do with their strategies.
The Buck ban makes sense, though, when you consider the amount of bottom to top clearance that he might be able to work towards, especially against the upstairs site defenses. We don't see it super often, but when it is used, it can be quite potent at clearing out players in more hard lock positions behind soft destruction. So we'll see that get taken out. Defender bans are a little bit more straightforward, though, as Mira pretty much makes one of the sites viable for defensive strategies in the first place. So removing her removes one of the options from the defense, and as well, Valkyrie tends to be a pretty common ban on all of our maps right now, so not too much of a surprising pick right there.
No, not at all. I think the offense is definitely the most unique aspect of that ban phase. I don't think we've actually seen Buck Zo banned on Coastline ever inside of the NAL. So pretty cool stuff happening there. We'll have to see how that affects DarkZero inside of their lineups. Obviously, no Zofia means you're going to have to replace her in some capacity. She has so much utility to offer the offense, so to try and slot somebody else into her position could be difficult. But for DarkZero, it looks to be the Yana. They already have the Sledge along for the ride as well, with some soft destruction and Ash to be expected. But we're going to have NJR on our new hologram friend.
Let's see how he will fare on that. At the same time, let's take a look at how Mirage is going to shape up their initial defense, which is surprisingly going to be over here in Kitchen. Not too crazy of a sight, just not where we're usually used to seeing teams start out. A little bit more open the choice tends to be here on Coastline, though, and it also tends to vary on a team-to-team basis. So Mirage feels themselves here in Kitchen. We'll see how that will pan out, as it needs to be from the looks of it anyway, especially looking at their operator picks, a pretty roam-heavy setup, and that is certainly going to be the case, as we'll see extensions being set up right now going over here towards the theater, as well as the bedroom area, a few other places as well, probably going to be set up for members of Mirage to bait out the time and hopefully get a few picks as well against the initial take attempts from DZ.
Well, with DarkZero out the gate, let's see if we have some aggressive rounds to start us off. I'd assume not, especially with the Lion Pick coming in for DarkZero. Probably going to want to work most of the map from that roof and capitalize on that utility when it benefits them the most. Only 30 seconds in now, so obviously things are going to be quite slow moving, just mostly onto drones and clearing out that top floor, in which there is an abundance of Mirage players.
See a pretty quiet round to start things out, as Stokes was mentioning here. DarkZero mainly working on getting drone intel on their VIP walk-in right now. As you can see, 2 players stuck in drone phase. The third gonna hop into VIP itself here before potentially trying to go down Hall of Fame and taking control there. Well, speak of the devil, we're actually going to see the Yana move in with one of their player, and they'll just take that control outright. So step 1 complete, but it's a very small step, unfortunately. A lot more work to be done here for DarkZero before any real progress is made on the round, and the first part of that is going to be trying to knock out players like Pix, as well as Benji sitting in the wings here, but it's not going to pan out. In fact, Mirage absolutely destroying it right now, as both NJR and Eclipse are taken down on the DarkZero camp right at the beginning. Mint trying to look for a trade over here in the theater cross, but still has not been able to find it.
Yeah, big problems right now for DZ is both of their info gathering operators are now gone. Mirage with a hell of a lead already inside of round 1 is they were continuing to work those angles, but finally just leave the area. They'd much rather lean on that timer and put DarkZero into a bad spot. DZ need to try and get these refrags, and this is where the problems are going to ensue. They now have top control, so the verticality will come into play, but they can still possibly be pressured at any moment in time, as Hot and Cold lies in wait upstairs inside of Billiards. The rest of the Mirage members, though, downstairs inside of not only lobby, but also the bottom of Vibes, and one remainder inside of the actual site.
Mirage waiting so patiently right now for DarkZero to make the next move, but DarkZero is unable to find it where they need to. Hot and Cold, though, takes a little bit of a swing and takes some damage as a result of that, too. But good news for him is he escapes out and keeps his life in check. Can't say the same for Benji, as he's going to get taken down by Mint. Nyx also getting dropped here by Hyper, who took top main stairs control. Starting to see the round shift slightly as we come down to the final couple seconds here, but Who's going to come out the winner? That's still the important question. Not loading, trying to find the lineup, but at the same time, it's a great bait because it allows a grenade to fly in, taking him down. Hyper to close out on the actual kill. Now it's DarkZero with the advantage, but with only 14 seconds left, they have to move quickly and get into the site. Hot and Cold has a potential cutoff against them here as they're going to try to swing in through the main door and push themselves into showers. That could be a problem for them. There's the first cutoff from Hot, but he fails to account for the players moving in from the main door. He'll be immediately traded out by Skies. Everything falls to the defenders, and they're going to win it out on the timer, as unfortunately that distraction in the front lobby wasted enough time for our defenders to run it down.
Oh, such a scary round there for Mirage, but they're able to seal the deal in the end and take the first defensive win here on Coastline. It's a really big deal. Some really strong picks early on from Mirage as well to limit DarkZero's potential here inside of round one, but DZ still did such a fantastic job of not only maintaining that top floor control, but also producing picks off of it. They went for that full top clear. They never really were able to find Hot and Cold, and that really was the thorn in their side that eventually led to the massive issue at the end where he was allowed to be alive inside of Courtyard and ends up thwarting that last second clutch. So great stuff from Mirage, really limiting DarkZero, forcing them onto that timer and into a clutch moment earlier on, especially with the two operator picks that they did get. I mean, you wouldn't have wanted any other operators out of what they were able to get. Both info ops going down for DarkZero, and Mirage, just fantastic stuff to start us off here on Coastline.
We've got an interesting pick from Not Loading as Tachanka is going to be brought in. For anybody who hasn't played Siege in a while, this is not the same Tachanka that you've known from before. I'm not sure if we had him picked earlier today as of yet, but this is the first time I'm getting to see him in NA play, so it's going to be very interesting to see how his new kit is going to potentially hold up the DarkZero attack, especially considering he's being comboed with a smoke. Lots of delay potential coming in because of that new Tachanka utility, the 10 incendiary grenades, which he could place down at any of the key choke points that are off in play.
Yeah, he's got a lot of mollies, as well as his LMG that everyone knew him for with his prior kit is now his primary weapon, and it has a hell of a lot of soft destruction. Let me tell you, it just tears through these walls.
The circle machine is what I like to call it.
Yeah, exactly. I think when he first got released, I tested it, and you can create like 10 holes all with his LMG, like 10 actual like crouch holes. So he's got insane potential for breaking up sites and things like that. I like his application to hookah just at like, you know, a face value, just because of that delay like Blue was talking about before. Smoke is really, really strong here inside of a vase position or over inside of pink where we see Chanka right now. And to have two of those types of operators here for this site honestly bodes pretty well.
First, the E1D scan coming in from Eclipse right there, as he's going to use that to try to get some early info on the potential roam game for Mirage. Don't believe he got a whole lot of info, but as a direct result of that scan, or just as a convenience of the timing, Nyx was forced back to the depths of the site, meaning that Mirage is now playing a pretty typical bunker hold here on the inside of the site, and Nyx actually almost losing his life there too, due to the top-down angles which had been opened up. A little bit of a tricky situation for him. You can see him running around trying to look for a safe spot to play. There just really isn't one, unfortunately, at this point in time. So we'll pick the best one that is available and await the next move from DZ.
Well, Mirage currently congested inside of site right now. Haven't found much area to work with aside from the actual site setup. So everyone currently centralized around this for the time being until DarkZero makes their first step. Looks to be a split take here as we have some operator moving towards VIP as well, while DarkZero are prioritizing hookah balcony, but NJR overstays his welcome in the angle, and Benji takes him down. Frag grenade gets eaten up by the ADS, but finally DarkZero finds some frags. Hot and Cold and Nyx both fall. Utility pouring in. Hard destruction going down on the single panels for hookah, but Benji staying strong here on the shield, in tow with Dream holding down his vibes. Still an opportunity here for Mirage to shut this down, especially while Dream still has utility in hand and loading still up with those Tachanka flame nades. DarkZero stuck outside still, but Dream finally with the first strike takes down Mint. The flame nades come in, but Hyper's made the play. He forces his will into face, takes down two. Skies cleans up the mess for him. We're gonna need some cleanup inside of Billiards, folks. It is a massacre for DarkZero as they're able to find their first one on offense.
A very, very tense round up until those final few seconds where Hyper's finally able to sneak through the depths of hookah without being noticed and pick up those two very important kills by Cool Vibes. That certainly seals the deal for that round, but very well fought there by the folks on Mirage. Unfortunately, giving away a few too many picks towards the end after trying to delay with their sight hold for those final few seconds. You could see Not Loading just spamming the chonka nades on Cool Vibes quite literally there while they left the smoke to deal with the balcony pressure. So the game plan is correct. They just have to try and bring it home now and try to find a way to solidify this so they don't end up having to give away a couple of their players earlier on in the fight to the initial peaks from DZ, especially towards big window inside of Hookah. A lot of issues there for Mirage.
Yeah, absolutely. It just seemed like the delay utility wasn't as useful as Mirage wanted it to be, and that's why they're going to move away from the Tachanka as well. You can see loading already allocating himself to the Wamai, which just overall a stronger operator inside of this lineup. Whenever you have a Wamai and Jaeger together, that's just very annoying for the offense to try and deal with, especially when it comes to the throwable department. Really, the only one that truly has burn right now is got to be Mint with those 3 stun grenades. So everything else is going to be either eating up breaching rounds or frag grenades from NJR and Skies. So probably a really good adjustment for Mirage in the long run here, instead of just trying to deny them space with smoke and Tachanka.
All right, so into round number 3 here. A 1-1 scoreline. Anyone's game at this point forward here. Mirage once again going to bring a very similar lineup to the table when it comes to how they're positioning these players inside of round number 3, with the majority being tied to the site itself or within just a couple seconds rotate of being there, and only one player, it looks like, I believe that's their Jaeger Benji out and about right now here roaming. Actually, excuse me, I think that's Nyx once again. A little hard to tell the silhouette sometimes here. Unfortunately, we're zoomed that far out, so forgive me for that.
Yeah, I have to get the proper lens on this camera real quick, you know. I got the good zoom on there and everything else. But either way, Mirage back upstairs into Hookah, and this is a little difference from what we saw in the previous round. We have one of these Mirage players actually playing inside of VIP, as well as some control inside of luggage, and that's what we want to see from the Mirage squad. That last round, they got very congested inside of site early on once DarkZero started applying pressure, but DarkZero didn't have any pressure from the east side of the map. It was simply the balcony and the billiards double window. That was it. Everywhere else was free reign for Mirage to try and play, and it just ended up being very, very rough for them once that execute came through. Just too many people inside of the kitchen per se. Minute and 40 left now on the clock for DarkZero to make some magic happen, though. Is it going to happen through the same means? That's the big question. They have some drones inside of Hookah to get some good intel on the back end of the actual site, and it looks to be very similar fashion. Pre-fire through the wall off of the lion ping from the double window for Eclipse. Very nice shots onto Dream. Deals some damage as DZ are getting ready for this execute.
I do find the damage on the Dream. They have not been able to otherwise find an opening pick as they were able to do in the previous round. In fact, it's the opposite that's happened now. Benji swinging from his corner angle here just inside of the Hookah door. Takes out one of the players on balcony. Not loading has success from his angle as well. I believe taking out the player on rappel. One from Mirage's side. In fact, 2 now. Dream and not loading going to get downed and taken out. So DarkZero replies right back to those early openers from Mirage. And it looks like we're going to have another very, very close shave here for both teams as it's coming down to the wire in these last 40 seconds.
Oh, this is going to be incredibly close here, Blue. Neither team wants to give the other an inch. You can see DarkZero just pre-firing through all of these soft walls, trying to see if any of the Mirage members will peek out. Skies has made an adjustment over towards the roof as well, but it seems as though he's now inside of Aqua. Doesn't do any damage to him, though. He's aware of the flank, but could possibly be pressured from inside of Billiards as well. Doesn't have any frag grenades to be able to get rid of this Banshee either, and Hot and Cold capitalizes on the situation. Sky stuck between a rock and a hard place, and now Benji inside of Vase doing what he does best, taking these frags, but it's going to be a hyper move here for Hyper up the staircase, not able to make it happen. Mint now locked up inside of Hookah, and he's boxed out as well. Round 3 goes to Mirage after some extremely strong defense.
It's much more akin to what Mirage, I think, we're hoping to accomplish in the previous round. Limit the potential execute options for DarkZero down to only 1 to 2 places, especially with the Tachanka spam going on over by Cool Vibes stairs, and then basically force them in. And that time they were able to use it even without the Tachanka. So things work out much better for them on that run compared to previously where they lost too many players over in their Billiards defense.
Apologies for the laugh in the background right there. But I was just, did you guys see Dream? Did you guys see Dream there?
I didn't catch it.
He's got a HyperX bandana on. It's fantastic.
Oh,
it's
I did
amazing.
See that earlier, actually. Yeah, I saw that earlier.
It's so good. It completely caught me off guard. After that round, I expected to look across and just see him clapping, and that wasn't what was happening at all. So it was, in fact, the exact opposite of what I expected. So, but Mirage looking super solid on these defenses so far. And I think the thing that's so strong from them so far is that they've recognized early on inside of these rounds what DarkZero's plans are for trying to take control of the map. They're not really too concerned with these angles. They have most of these things set up to where they're not getting too much pressure put on them. That round went so well the previous time, though, because Mirage was able to get those earlier frags, especially the one onto Eclipse for the double window. That helped them out a lot. To get rid of that double window player frees up so much space for you to work. And with him gone, you have plays like Hot and Cold moving inside of billiards and taking down skies and things like that. It just makes it a lot harder for the offense to actually create those cutoffs and make it dangerous for the defense to move around site like they want to.
So similar flare going to come out on the overall defensive setup that you're currently looking at here from Mirage, but obviously it's to defend an entirely different site, which doesn't look very well defended at all right now. And you'd be right in assuming that, but you'd also be wrong because it's a siege after all. It's holding upstairs in addition to downstairs. They'll have to funnel back down to that basement position if they're overwhelmed here, but they need to hold this because if not, then their attackers can open a bunch of top-down angles, and trying to hide downstairs isn't going to be too fun either. So they do have to extend their hold out here. Oh, Nyx putting himself into a very sketchy situation right there. Got caught crawling across the window, but was able to get out of that situation in time to save his own life. Just barely, though. Going to be at sub 25 now as a direct result of that.
Well, still has a pulse, and that means he can still shoot somebody. That's really all they're concerned about right now, but that is definitely going to be a factor going into these last 2 minutes. Early damage from DarkZero means that Nyx won't be able to take angles like he wants to. And speaking of Aruni, we haven't seen her all too much just yet with her fresh release. Oh, what a shot there from Hyper inside of Luggage. Takes down Loading inside of Aqua, giving up quite a bit of map control upstairs. But nevertheless, it's just cool to see her start getting worked in, especially since she is the only defender right now that has a DMR at her disposal. Just a really, really cool kit to have implemented into Siege overall. And what a play from Hot and Cold. Read like a book. Nitro cell underneath. Hyper's not even concerned with the angle, but he needs to be, because if it's hot or cold, it's definitely all hot right now. This guy is on fire. 4v4 going into the last minute here.
Their E1D charge coming out. You can see a few aggressive moves from DarkZero to correspond to that play as they attempt to find out where the remaining bits of the defense are at. It's not an easy game to play. You can see it here in our silhouettes. These guys are spread out all over the place. DarkZero trying to play whack-a-mole with their sledge right now, hoping they get lucky and find one of them, but unfortunately no dice on that, and they're really out of time to play like this. 45 seconds left. We are going to see the Yana drone try to move in, but it'll be denied, and another kill going to be picked up here by Mirage as Nyx takes out Eclipse.
And that's the danger. Even though he's not dead, he has so much damage done to him. Nyx still gets the double kill. Finally shut down from NJR as they're prioritizing Sunrise. They drop inside of the couch as well. But Hot and Cold deals with that situation. All of a sudden, it's down to NJR, but he's done and dusted behind the bar. Mirage are making coastline defense look so easy right now as they claim round 4.
Some great stuff once again from the newer teams stepping up, or forming up, you could even say, for this season of the NAL. We saw it earlier with Beast Coast taking on TSM and having an absolutely fantastic opening game against their opponents there a little bit earlier on today, the former champions, or the current champions, I should even say, of the US division. And now we're seeing it once again with Mirage here. Hot and Cold, the most recently departed member of the DarkZero roster, coming together to form this new group with Nyx, who also comes from the roster, and quite a few other notable names as well. And so far, performing very well, both in this map as well as their performance last weekend in the DarkZero Pro-Am.
Yeah, absolutely. Mirage overall has been so impressive since we saw this roster come together. I mean, even the older iterations of it weren't exactly bad. This one just seems to have doubled down on lethality, where we see a lot of these people able to get, double-digit frags or, multi-kills inside of rounds that really have a lot of influence, like that last round there with Nyx. Even though that early damage comes through, he's still able to get the double kill, which leads to Mirage winning that round. They are continually just being more lethal than DarkZero inside of these rounds and getting in the way of DZ when it matters most, when they're trying to set up for those executes and get those entry kills to actually get onto site. We're done with the tactical pause now, folks. That was DarkZero's tactical pause, all used up. Won't have one for them for the rest of the game, but I'm sure if we see things start to turn around, Mirage will probably come through with one as well.
Well, let's take a look-see here at how exactly DarkZero is going to, or I should say, what exactly DarkZero is going to bring to the table to change up the game plan right now, because we are routing right back to where Mirage started this map off at, and where things once again started out pretty well for them due to how well they were able to leverage early control over the map to get aggressive against DarkZero, find those early picks, and then make it very difficult for the closeout at the end as well. Even though DarkZero made a valiant attempt and nearly came back, Mirage, due to the split nature of their remaining 2 to 3 players at that point, they were able to stretch the timer far enough where DarkZero could not get the case down onto the ground, nor could they kill the final player from Mirage, as he was inaccessible by the time they were at 0 timer.
Well, round 5, right around the corner here as DarkZero gets released onto the field. And looking across the scoreboards right now, pretty solid, at least for Mirage's side across the board. But for DarkZero, kind of falling on deaf ears right now. NGR, Mint, and Eclipse all with the breadstick. Rocking 1 frag right now. Skies with 3 and Hyper with 7. Whereas Mirage, we got Hot and Cold with his own 7 frag of his own. 0 and 2 to round off that score line. Definitely have to be happy with that one when you're going up against a fragger like Hyper and you're able to get those frags out.
DarkZero, you can tell, being very cautious about their opening play here this time as well. Previously, weren't too scared to try and take some of that initial map control to at least start posturing and begin clearing out the roam game for Mirage. Not so much the case here, but at the same time, it could be the beginning of a little bit more of a direct strategy from DarkZero given the site that they are currently attacking here. Mirage has a lot set up around that, as well as upstairs here too, that potentially DarkZero are going to have to deal with, and it looks like Skies is probably going to be first up to bat trying to do that. Impact goes out a little bit too short, I think, unfortunately, so no damage going to be done, but in theory, Nick's making the correct move there.
Well, we'll have to see if they try and re-engage upstairs. There's kind of an awkward impact there. I don't know if he was necessarily trying to get rid of the drone or what, but it didn't even seem like he was aiming for the actual drone hull, but that's neither here nor there. Mirage still with a really strong setup upstairs, and that's going to force DarkZero actually off of that and to reassess the situation instead. NGR's move from Hookah over to VIP alongside Mint as they're trying to prioritize this top control where they can actually get some vertical play going on. First frags possibly coming through here. Benji wins out against NJR, who still can't find that second frag that he so desperately needs to make these offenses go. No chance for a refrag either as Mirage gets away with the bag.
Benji getting very aggressive to pick up that kill as well, directly swinging in from the window, because unfortunately he doesn't have a lot of cover to work with once people actually enter the building from there. Eclipse did find the exchange in an unrelated battle there, as Nyx is going to end up getting taken down a little bit further out from the looks of things. So he'll go down. We'll go back to a 4v4. Benji will obviously have to be careful because he's low too, but so is Skies. In fact, Benji is next up to be taken down. Eclipse tearing up the defenses, but not loading. Going to put an end to his streak before it goes any further. Next, go to Hot and Cold here, who's in the hot seat as he's potentially got pressure coming at him from Sunrise. That was, of course, until we saw the turnaround call from Hyper. He's now going to be leaving the building or rotating over towards the front by security. Rest of DarkZero still on the outside, still looking for picks, and we're at 20 seconds, folks, so DarkZero need to pick up the pace. It's definitely kills they need to find upstairs, but I just don't really think they have the time to do this anymore.
15 seconds
Oh, this is going to be a crazy 15 seconds for this 3v3. Hyper pressuring stalls right now. Has one inside of beer he has to worry about, but Hot and Cold gets the frag from outside. Hyper flicks back, takes down the player inside a lobby, but he's the only remaining member on DarkZero. And after Dream takes him down, round 5 is going towards the defense. This defense is just looking so strong right now, Blue. I don't know how DarkZero get around this. All of these frags keep going Mirage's way. It's just like DarkZero cannot find a way into the actual map. They've never truly had a piece of the map to work off of. Mirage are in their face every single step of the way, taking these gunfights and keeping them out of the building.
All the important fights too. I hate to use this as a point of analysis because it's generally pretty bad analysis, but I feel like it's pretty true right now, and that for a lot of, especially the early round duels that we're seeing here, DarkZero just not winning their ones when it comes down to it, and that's putting them on the back foot so many times. They've come close on quite a few occasions to course correcting it and being able to win the round regardless, but never really able to get themselves over the line and secure it. So definitely an issue that needs to be fixed here sooner rather than later, and hopefully within this map. As if not, Mirage is truly about to run the gauntlet straight up to 7 rounds.
Absolutely. And speaking of gauntlets, we're about to run something that we didn't expect to see with that Mirror Band coming in. We are here on Hookah, on Penthouse Theater, which is a site that we don't see very often at all, mainly because the penthouse area is practically one big no man's land. You don't want to be there or you're more than likely going to die. You got to hold things down from over inside of theater, where Mira comes into play quite often, but since she's banned out, obviously the lineup's going to look a whole heck of a lot different. Mirage, mostly focused on not only denying utility in the throwables front, but as well as utility for information. They want to make sure that these drones are stuck in place for DarkZero, and they can't get as much info on what's actually going on early on here. Great prevention of the wall as well with that mute utility from Nyx. Let's see how Mirage try to work this out, because this is quite in-depth with angles towards VIP.
Yeah, this is be dangerous here for Mirage, especially if players start getting torn apart.
Yep.
But thankfully, they're not going to have to worry about that with the +1 advantage. Hot and Cold sneaks away NJR's life as he gets himself to the pool door window. DarkZero do not have a player keeping an eye on that, and Mirage will reap the rewards.
That right there is just intuition. Oh,
Okay,
man,
never mind.
Eclipse. What a frag back through Kitchen to take down Hot and Cold. But, I mean, at this point in time, that's just rubbing salt in the wounds of NJR. The guy just got into the actual map, and you immediately frag him out. But what I was trying to say is that's just some major intuition there from Hot and Cold. He's just seen a million different ways that Coastline's played. He knows where these players are going to more than likely be early on inside of the round, and he's able to get a frag because of it.
About a minute into the round here, already seeing some action, but overall DarkZero not trying to take, as we've seen many times before, not trying to take a massive amount of map control in these first couple minutes, let alone all 3 of the minutes here, as we've seen in a couple of the rounds, but are making progress. They've slowly worked their way in and gotten a lot of drone intel, specifically about what VIP and the Hall of Fame look like at the moment, which is definitely going to be a big area of the map that DarkZero are looking to take control of, and if anything, use it as a staging ground in order to get stuff to site. The problem is going to become, once again, as we've already seen in the previous couple rounds, if they can't even get access to that staging ground, what hope are they going to have to work their way into the site? And it looks like right now they're trying to leverage to get this wall open from VIP into the bedroom, but unfortunately there is a pesky mute jammer on the other side they've been trying so hard to deal with and unfortunately have not been successful. The good news is, though, they'll be successful in the frag department. Skies at least gets another kill. DarkZero are now ahead here as we enter the last minute of the round.
Yeah, but that's the biggest problem is DarkZero have gotten to this point every single time inside of these offenses. But what is it worth when Mirage is able to continue to clutch up these rounds when it's so desperately needed? Now it's time for DarkZero to take the reins and claim this round, splitting us 4-2. They desperately need it while moving into the defensive side here. Eclipse with a nice frag gets one, but oh no, the case is now down outside. It's not loading, finds one. Nyx looking for yet another inside of sight. Finally, the case going to get picked up, but Eclipse has actually been down. They need to not only pick him up, but they need to get him actually into the site. Skies with a solo play of his own, takes the frag, SMG-11 in hand, and he whips Nyx down. Round 6 for DarkZero on offense, off the back of some fantastic plays here from Skies over towards the top of main.
Skies definitely picking it up here big for DarkZero and making sure that they're able to solidify that one final round before the initial half closed out and we flipped over to the second side. So Mirage with a pretty convincing lead coming off the defensive side of Coastline, not the side we normally favor in these sorts of situations. So they are definitely in a leading position, at least from my point of view right now. We'll have to see how DarkZero is going to look to swing back, as they will also dive directly in on a kitchen and service defense for their initial defensive round coming up right now.
Some fantastic stuff on that half from both squads. DarkZero kind of floundering there for a moment, but able to reclaim ground and able to get around on the board, especially one that was so very important when it comes to Coastline's dynamics. We'll see if they can try and get some things rolling here on defense. But as for Mirage, such a solid defense overall of Coastline. That is quite a dominant one. We don't see that happen too often here on Coast, just because of how the map usually ends up going. There's a lot of angles you have to worry about on the defense. It's difficult to try and work around this big old donut, and usually the offense can probably pick off some people in that meantime while you're just trying to be safe. But Mirage were able to counteract that by getting aggressive, getting into DarkZero's face before they were able to actually set things up. And that's really where they were able to win out, was getting down to those 3v3 situations, 4v3 situations, where Mirage really just pulled ahead of DZ on that half. But that's all done and dusted at this point. DarkZero now over to defense. Mirage on the offense as they break out onto the field with some new looks, some new pillars inside of this lineup that we didn't see before for DarkZero on their offense, most notably being Dream and Benji on the Jackal as well as the Dokkaebi.
Once again, it's going to be a couple of seconds here before the action kicks off, just because the Mirage players do now need to use their additional drones. We're going to figure out exactly what DZ is trying to set up for themselves, and more importantly, what the roam game looks like, the extension of players out from the traditional rooms where the sites are normally positioned, and well, you have to figure out where those players are. Otherwise, you're going to be walking into a bunch of kill boxes here, and you definitely don't want to be doing that as the attacking team. These will remain very held back for the time being as Mirage looks for the opener, and they finally find that as Nyx is able to insert himself over towards VIP, taking full control of that room. Pretty important room to be able to grab here too. NJR still going to be a problem for them over towards 90. They can't fully drone him out either due to that mute jammer sitting over in the corner, but they do have pretty firm grasp on his current position. Unfortunately, they did not account for the players sitting inside of theater yet as well here, so a little bit more work to do for Mirage before they can clear out Benji or Hyper for that matter.
Oh, finally some frags coming through for DarkZero. Mint gets one, Hyper gets another upstairs inside of Guitar. All of a sudden, this turns on its head, and DarkZero pull ahead upstairs. Dream, only remaining member besides Benji inside of VIP, upstairs for Mirage. Dream with a nice shot takes down Hyper with that DMR, but do they know that there's still one upstairs inside of the hallway? Not loading, swings in, plenty of stuns. NJR pre-fires, but oh no, Rock in a hard play, swinging back and forth, pre-fires, takes down loading, and that's a huge frag actually, but oh my, Dream gets one of his own. What is happening right now? There's still a minute left on the board, but Mirage continue to push through and frag out these DarkZero members. It's all down to Skies now inside of sight. An operator that Skies has been most notable on within the most recent years, used to be a mainstay entry for a lot of the rosters that he was on before. Instead, defensively, switches over towards Smoke, and he's found so much success with this kit since playing this operator, but DarkZero needs him now. They need him to step up and find this win inside of this 1 versus 2.
They still got the Jackal scans as well. Skies, unfortunately, cannot escape the intel game that's going to play out here for Mirage. The call coming in as well. Just no winning this fight right now from an intel basis for Skies. He's got to try his best to do it with his gun skill, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen. Benji gets the last frag, and Mirage win out the initial round of the second half.
Well, everyone check your calendars, because I think today is actually opposite day. I mean, every team that we thought was going to just run away with the games today, just not the case. Not the case. Blue TSM falls flat. DarkZero. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it right now. It's just really, really difficult for them to try and work anything across the board. That defense in particular actually looked quite strong with the trades that were coming in. It was just that Mirage didn't slow down at all. That was the big problem for DarkZero. They assumed that there was going to be some, allotted time in between those engagements where they could catch a breath and then get back in there like Siege would traditionally go. But that's not what a Mirage allowed to happen. Instead, getting those frags by forcing their opponents back on their hind legs, and we're able to claim the round because of it. Some great stuff from Mirage.
All right, so Mirage setting sail with their scoreline rapidly pushing ahead of DarkZero's here as we inch closer and closer towards the potential end of this match. Only 2 rounds away now for Mirage to seal the deal and get themselves off to a great scoreline at the beginning of our second season. DarkZero, though, not out of this one yet either. Shifting back over towards the normal default site that teams will trend towards at the beginning of maps as we go towards Hookah Billiards once again, as well as, for the most part, a pretty straightforward operator lineup for the defense. Mid's pick there on the Echo is a little bit drifting from what we normally tend to expect, but it certainly makes sense as he can place himself in a very similar position to Maestro or another similar operator that would be used in the same role and still have just as much effectiveness, possibly even more if it comes down to a late round clutch due to those yokai drones.
We'll see if those yokai drones can be effective with Echo, recently being nerfed. But as I say that, some action already ensuing downstairs inside of Sunrise. We have 2 Mirage members in here, one being Jackal. Most important one here is he could possibly get some early intel, but there's no downstairs presence from DarkZero. Instead, they're worried about the top floor on an extended hold. Farthest being away, Hyper, all the way over inside of Penthouse, who could possibly rotate back in at a moment's notice. Mirage seemingly want to work this downstairs and see if they can possibly get some early frags on these anchor positioned players. Mirage focusing over towards Cool Vibes as well, where we have some DarkZero contacts, most notably Sky sitting here as the smoke, and that's not necessarily one that you want to take early on here. At M590, more than likely meaning the demise of any Mirage member that tries to peek that. Frag grenades and everything else out, or impact grenades and everything else out from the defense here, but nothing truly landing. There's a little bit of damage from Nyx, which I assume is coming from one of those frags from the offense that got tossed into Hookah. But DarkZero doing a bang-up job right now of not only delaying time, but just sitting on this utility. They haven't had to overpeak, and they haven't had to overstay their welcome in the slightest.
Half the round gone. Once again, no results so far from either roster. Mirage going to have to start getting worried at least a little bit that they haven't been able to make this progress yet, as that timer is starting to really, truly work against them here as we inch closer to that 1 minute mark. Away from that as well, utility still in an okay position for the Mirage players. They haven't overcommitted in that respect. They still have half their flashbangs, all of their smokes. They still have breaching charges potentially if they have to use them at this point in the round. Probably not, but certainly not lacking anything in that department. They've chosen to take a very quiet path here, and the problem is, without using that utility, players like Skies are going to be able to make moves like that. Swings right out, a quick pump of the shotgun, and bye-bye to Nyx. Suddenly, Mirage are now fighting 4v5, and they don't have a lot of time to make up the difference.
We'll see what the plan is. DarkZero continue to make this situation more difficult as yet another member falls. M590 does what it does best as Benji falls. Mick gets one of his own as well, all of a sudden down to not loading. He's repelled on the double window for billiards, excuse me, as I get a little ahead of myself. But Mirage definitely not going to do as I was just talking about. More than likely just going to see if they can get any exit frags here and talk about how this next offense is going to go. Great defense of Hookah here, but oh, just as I say that, NJR gets absolutely demolished from not loading. I mean, insult to injury once again. This guy has not been having a strong day. And oh, some damage done to Mint, but finally Sky is able to shut down not loading before things get too hairy. Not loading, just putting on his absolute best show there at the end for that little clutch, but just going to be more of a minced words than anything. DarkZero Mirage still locked inside of this battle after DZ find their third round.
Loading got a refresh on the penetration, quiz or whatever there. Got to roll through the map and guess what you can and can't shoot through. Nearly going to get done, though. Obviously, he just took a wild guess, and it was pretty much a lost round at that point anyway, for the most part. So nothing too heavily going to be taken away from them there. DarkZero as well, with a really solid defense, mainly throughout the fault of Mirage, in my opinion, though. That was a really weird round for Mirage, where we just never really saw them take any risks up until the end, not wanting to use their utility or try to take any sort of aggressive control throughout the map. And finally, they just start swinging it as we get down to that last minute or so, trying to take Cool Vibes control. But like I was saying, without any of that utility used and trying to play quietly up until that point in the round, I mean, DarkZero were ready for it, and they just shut it down. Angle after angle after angle was pushed by Mirage there.
Absolutely. It seemed that Mirage wanted DarkZero, or assumed that DarkZero would have a roam going on downstairs, and that's what that was for. Why you have Ash and Jackal being the initial operators inside of Sunrise. They're looking for those feetsies on the ground. They want to get that early intel from Jackal and try and get that early entry frag, whether it be from downstairs or just get some intel on what's going on up top. But that's not what was gifted towards Mirage. And after that fell through, they kind of just sat on their hands. There really wasn't any, strong utility usage towards the site. They weren't trying to break up any of, create new lines of sight or really establish any place to try and put a plant down. DarkZero started getting in their way around that minute 10 mark, and Mirage could just never recover from that point on. But now they're granted kitchen once again, and they already won the kitchen site after a fantastic clear of the top floor, where we saw in particular, Dream actually with some really, really big impact frags.
So into another round, into another chance for Mirage to solidify their lead once again, and also for DarkZero to close the gap. to work on a comeback potential here. DarkZero biting pretty heavily on this early noise being made over towards VIP. Quite a few players starting to get in position to directly counter that out, and why wouldn't they, of course, because it seems like they've got a pretty good read on the situation. Almost an early attempt for Mirage to try and take some control over towards service there, as it looked like they wanted to maybe sneak Nyx in since he is on the Nook for this round, but got caught at the last second, unfortunately, by Mint, so had to call that one off. Maybe a little bit later on, they'll be able to attempt that.
Well, minute off the board right now, and pretty slow start so far between these two. Mirage trying to work the top side of the map as well as get a bead on the player inside of Sunrise. It's going to be Eclipse, really locked in the couch area. Drone out, and oh, what a shot from Eclipse. Goes for the second one as well, but can't take him down. But still a nice frag early on onto Benji, and definitely needed. Get that Jackal out of here. Nyx trying to follow through on this frag here. Not able to get too much. Eclipse playing this out perfectly, but finally taken down by Hot and Cold as he hops inside of the Sunrise window. Nice starts here between these two, but DarkZero doing really, really well when it comes to delaying this time.
4v4, and as Stokes just mentioned, DarkZero doing a fantastic job of ignoring the members of Mirage to the best of their capabilities, and at best avoiding them entirely, as we've seen a couple of times, of just wasting the time away without even really having to take fights against the members of Mirage as well here. Great mastery of the time waste so far here from DC. And once again, just like what we saw on DarkZero's own attacking side, Mirage are facing against a similar issue where they're just not really able to make a whole lot happen besides one or two trades inside of the early round, and almost everything is coming down to that pivotal 20 to 30 second execute. Unfortunately, Mirage not having the best of luck so far with controlling those executes.
Oh, Hot and Cold. With an opportunity here. Sees the Aruni. Oh, no! Oh, huge chance here. I thought he downed it, but he didn't. Get some assistance from Nyx, who finally cleans up the kill with Hyper. What an awkward duel in between those two. I was flabbergasted at the situation, but only 10 seconds remain now as Mint takes down Nyx as he hightails it into Kegs, but no chance for Mirage to try and get to map point here. DarkZero close out round 9 in very convincing fashion.
DarkZero once again doing a fantastic job of obscuring themselves up until the point where that's no longer necessary, as once more, it just seems like Mirage, especially in the late run scenario, is just kind of guessing about how they want to proceed with trying to clear things out and approaching the site there. As you were mentioning, potentially trying to bait out mistakes from the DZ camp, but that's just not happening as of the past 2 rounds here, and we've kind of flipped from what we had going on earlier in the match. Now it's DarkZero getting all of the opening advantages, and just Mirage never really able to turn that around, leading to some very unfortunate last like 30 seconds of the round here in the past 2 rounds where they just haven't been able to do anything.
Yeah, it's a big play. It's a big change up for DarkZero, and as well as like you were talking about this earlier on, and you said, "Oh, well, I don't think that this is the best piece of analysis, but it's something that it definitely needs to be talked about." And this is exactly why, because they're actually winning their ones now. That's the biggest thing. Is DarkZero, when gifted these opportunities to get these early frags, they have not missed. Especially Eclipse inside of Sunrise on that last defense there of Kitchen. He was the mainstay player for DZ that not only got the frag, but also delayed so much time and forced Mirage to make a change up to actually get him out of his position. Some really, really strong stuff from DZ to make Mirage hurt, just make them bleed a little bit. They haven't taken them down just yet, but they're making it difficult, and that's what you want inside of these matchups. Make Mirage earn it, have them grind it out, and I mean, even at the end of the day, at least it'll be a closer matchup. I think that DarkZero, as of right now, unless we see a change up happen from Mirage, are definitely set up to try and take this, but definitely some opportunities for overtime here for Mirage, or we could see a complete change-up in what's going on with them. It's really hard to say. As of right now, though, we are already going to have a change-up inside of their lineup, and that's going to be Ace coming into the mix.
Let's see how the Ace potentially will change things up. Hard Breach in general hasn't really been used in this map so far, just because Coastline is a map where, for the most part, it's generally not needed to attack a large majority of the sites. It more is, if you want to bring it and have that extra bonus, you can, but you don't really have to. It's usually the kind of operating guidelines when it comes to Hard Breach on this map. So we're going to see a little bit more here as Mirage bringing in the Ace, potentially to open up some more of these angles here and allow easier access to the parts of the map, which DarkZero are normally going to be cordoning off.
Attackers must locate and defuse a bomb.
All right, round 10 commences. Prep phase done. We've got the boring stuff out of the way, folks. It's time for the gunfights and the gore. Can't wait for it. Mirage, all spawning on poolside here. Could have an early opportunity to get aggressive towards the hookah balcony, but they have so much utility, or at least Benji, that's really primed to try and find some early intel here, but they could always abuse that hologram through other means as well. As of right now, it seems as though Mirage want to focus on this downstairs presence from DZ, and this is something that we saw them do prior on their hookah offense, is clear out this bottom area, but this is the first time that DarkZero steps up to the plate. Let's see if they can knock it out of the park.
Mirage putting a lot of focus right now on that pool door. Probably going to be some time before we see any action come from it, though. The real story that we want to pay attention to right now is probably going to be the push working its way into the site. Okay, never mind. Apparently it is the pool door. That's the story right now. Benji picking up one from there. We do see the exchange into office, though, is not loading, is taken out just a few moments later due to Sky still having control, I believe, over towards luggage. So that'll be maintained for DarkZero, and the majority of their push, I don't know where their fourth is moving in from at the moment. Oh, I see him outside kitchen window there. Everybody pushing in from here. Their fourth trying to work in from the kitchen window. This is a very concerted effort to try and move in from one particular position. DarkZero should be able to shut this down handily, but maybe not the case. Hot and Cold picks up an exchange after losing a player. Nyx does get dropped trying to move in on his own regard, so it's now down to Hot and as well as Benji.
Oh, Mirage, if they're able to do it, this will be an insane round. 3 DarkZero members still up. NGR has a nitro cell as well, but Benji not working the angle. Oh no, ends up getting caught off guard. Hot and Cold now the last hope for Mirage here inside of round 10 before DarkZero are able to equalize. So many angles here for DZ, and oh, some major opportunities, but Mint with the prone angle from inside a blue bar takes down Hot and Cold, and what seemed to be such a great start for them after they're able to get some control inside of the mudroom gets immediately whisked away from them as Skies makes some massive plays inside of Couch. Backed up by the rest of the DarkZero members as well. So many angles there to worry about, and truthfully only one Hot and Cold to try and deny all of those separate angles, as he's able to get a couple of refrags, but nothing that actually made it to where they could convert the round.
Yeah, on top of that as well, Mirage trying a little bit more of a direct strategy that time instead of spending the first like 2.5 minutes trying to deal with the outside presence and then focusing on the execute all at once. They tried to go directly for it, since you can sort of make that play on the double bar, but unfortunately, due to the fact that none of their alternate angles had any success whatsoever, their Nomad getting shut down inside of office and one other player getting shut down trying to move in through the kitchen window, it once again just became a very one-dimensional push at the end of the round. And while theoretically, it could have worked if either of those alternate angles had success on fending off the flanks. Without that, it turned into something that was very, very easy for DarkZero to shut down, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with those early pickups, especially Hyper picking up that frag inside of Sunrise, I feel like that was the nail in the coffin right there that just turned the round over to DarkZero. That's just almost an unwinnable situation for Mirage unless something goes drastically in their favor, like a 2K happens there or something like that. There's just so many opportunities for DarkZero with the utility that they had to try and shut that down, especially just because of the amount of manpower they had over Mirage at that moment. And we're equalized finally, folks. DarkZero and Mirage 5-5 here on Coastline to wrap up our last day, or our last game of the day here for play day 1 of the NAL. Let's see who can possibly win this out. Round 11 just now commencing. Mirage still on the offense, looking for their first offensive round in 3 rounds, as they'll be attacking into hookah. Extended hold once again here for DarkZero, as they're looking to work the map quite quickly, starting things off inside of guitar again with some drones inside of penthouse bathroom.
Hyper potentially going to take the first contact once again if Mirage are going back to the old standard of trying to clear out the extended site presence before focusing on the site itself, and it definitely looks like that is going to be the case. Hyper, in fact, already pushed to the back of theater, his teammate with him having to re-rotate his position as well. Hot and Cold already dropped, and he's not alone. Two other players, I believe, actually with him for this push. They are brute forcing this theater hold out of the room, and it's worked. Benji going to take down Hyper. Can they get the second frag, though? This is the issue. This is usually the player that's able to fire back, and while he's going to be able to get that first kill, he took a lot of damage in the process. NJR, you've got to run for your life now to be able to keep this in your team's favor, and you're just not going to have that opportunity. Absolutely no chance for NJR to get out of there, unfortunately.
No, if one Mirage member is fighting a firefight, the whole squad is fighting the firefight. This is what we've seen routinely from this team so far inside of this map. And it's boding so well for them. Mirage continuing to find success here, but these last handful of rounds just not it for them. Finally, inside of round 11, they have a break and an opportunity to claim a round once again. Mirage still working the top of floor here, as well as maintaining that roof hold here from loading, at least with that ARX and some nice angles that you can possibly hold over towards Vase. Still a lot of utility on the defense that the offense has to worry about and clear out, but they still have lots of utility to get through that as well, especially with Nyx in these breaching rounds. There's going to be that lull moment before we see the actual execute come through. Former have to clear out all of this. They don't simply want to walk inside of the site and give up this round to DZ. But with 45 seconds remaining, as well as all the windows and everything else busting open, things have to try and change for the defense, and Eclipse is going to be the one to try and make it happen, but it's shut down from Hot and Cold as he dashes out of Hookah.
Oh, no.
Skies with a tactical grenade or a tactic smoke, goes out, but doesn't work out for him either. Dreams with a nice frag, and all of a sudden, it's down to Mint to try and keep them away from victory. Dream on the plants, able to secure that. Mint gets a frag, but not before Nyx shuts him down. And the previous DZ members, once again, muster a lead over DarkZero.
The folks from Mirage say they've had enough of just the slow game of cat and mouse, trying to clear out the defenders off site there and looking to lock them down. And ultimately, at least as far as this half is concerned, not being too successful in doing that, they're like, the heck with it. Just throw the whole team at them. And it works brilliantly. They force out the theater hold within the first minute or two. And then finally, they don't have the issue that's been plaguing them for the previous, half that's been playing out here. They don't have to spend all the time looking for additional players and spending time checking their flanks on their drones and things like that. They can then solely focus on the site execute. And that gives them more than enough time to be able to flush out the remaining defenders there from DZ that were still hiding in hookah and billiards.
Fluidity. Fluidity is the name of the game right now for Mirage, and that's exactly what we saw inside of that last offensive round, especially with the top clear that we saw inside of Theater and how well that worked. That's not something that you can simply just talk about and make it happen. We saw all of that happening in unison with Hot and Cold pushing up inside of Penthouse, renading. They're just trying to create and gather space as they push towards Theater, and that's something that we don't see happen too often inside of Siege to that degree. So some great stuff from Mirage there to really capitalize on that offense and take control of Theater upstairs. But now it's in DarkZero's best interest to try and win this round and force overtime. And what's the big question here for them? Well, DZ, the defenses have actually looked quite strong across the board, especially when it came to, well, 3 different sites. Hookah Kitchen and Double Bar all looked pretty solid to them, but Mirage able to pick up rounds on Kitchen as well as Hookah. Obviously, DZ can't go back to Double Bar, so they're going to go to second best, which they're feeling comfortable here in that Kitchen slot.
So no initial presence here for Mirage that we can see anyway working itself towards that roam clear, but it's not going to stay that way for very long. We got a couple people on the VIP balcony rappel in the lower level of it, so more than likely there is going to be some concerted effort to try and take out these players hiding on the inside. Yep, there you go. You can see the rappel down from the roof now as well towards the big window. Probably going to try this in very similar fashion to how it was executed in the previous round, too, since the hold is going to be very similar. I believe there's still an overall lack of anti-grenade inside of the theater room, too, like in terms of ADSs. I don't think there's a whole lot sitting in there, so can very easily frag out a defender if the need should arise once again, just as they did in the previous round.
We'll see if that can work out for him, or if DarkZero can get the frags they so desperately need. This first point of contact. The first one comes through off of a nitro cell. No firepower needed, just artillery as Eclipse takes down one. That's Nyx off the board. He's had a pretty lull game, able to find some entry frags, but definitely not topping the charts like he wants to. Minute and 43 now for Mirage to try and make something happen upstairs. They're attempting to try and duel the man inside of Theater as it's multiple angles as Hot and Cold takes down one, almost able to get some damage on the player inside of 90, but there's a hard wall there instead. NJR actually gets cut off from inside of VIP, almost getting down, but makes it away with about 5 HP.
A little bit of a rough patch there for the DarkZero camp as they try to scurry back their extended players closer to the site. Nearly losing NJR in the process, but keeping him alive is a very, very big deal, especially if he's going to remain out in a little bit of a harder to spot position here, just because he could potentially come in the late round, surprise, even if it's just for a 1-for-1 at this point. That one is going to be worth its weight in potential gold, so Very, very big deal, even though he's at just a sliver of HP remaining, that we keep NJR in this fight, especially coming down to the wire here in the final 55 seconds. Oh no, a lot of pressure coming onto that Maestro right now, but he's going to thrive in it. Mint going to the corner, swinging back out to take down Benji. Mirage are stunted now, only with Dream and Houghton to play off of. Houghton as well, only at 50 HP, so he's relegated to basically grenade drop duty, but unfortunately can't even do that. So he's going to try to find any of the players that are remaining that he might be able to spot by knocking out these top panels and hope that he can pick one or two of them off to make the job a bit easier for Dream, but nothing coming up for him right now. Absolutely nothing, and they're going to have to try and brute force it in a 2v4.
Well, DarkZero with a huge chance to force overtime here. Not much time for Mirage as Eclipse is still off inside of security. Actually gets found out by Houghton, but plenty of damage dealt. Dream has a chance, but doesn't look like it's going to go too well until he takes down NJR. Could possibly get another, but some great plays here from Mint as he's hiding behind the bomb chassis inside of Service to force overtime here between Mirage and DarkZero. And John, would you want it any other way when it comes down to how this series has went so far? These two are neck and neck here on Coastline, as it really does feel like we are back on the teeter-top.
Certainly the case. Very, very promising early round coming in there for Mirage as well, as they try so hard to shut that one down and bring it home. But unfortunately, the escape player on top of the trade just not going their way surmounts itself to be a very, very difficult 2v4 execute, especially considering the positions that they were working for. Really great attempt, especially again from Dream there, picking up some great headshots towards the end of it, but not nearly enough for the clutch. So we go into OT to settle this matchup here. 3 more rounds will decide these teams' early season fate.
Okay, well, DarkZero have defense here on our overtime start, so they'll have 2 defensive rounds, while our friends over in Mirage will have 1, but that might actually prove to be really, really good for Mirage. I mean, Mirage's offenses have looked okay, but I definitely think that they have an opportunity to get 1 here, at least when it comes to attacking the Hookah bomb site. They've seen Hookah almost the most out of these. Kitchen actually being the most played here for DarkZero, 3 times actually in their regulation, as opposed to 2 times with Hookah. But I definitely still think that Mirage have a chance here, and if they're able to get this round, that defense is where the deal, because it was so very strong here earlier on their half. As we finally get out onto the actual field, we have an extended hold once again from DarkZero all the way over into Penthouse, playing around the 90 area, also backed up with some ADSs just to try and get rid of some of those throwables early on here.
Mirage once again looking for that early access going into theater. It's going to lead them down a bit of a drone game here in order to figure out once again who's here, and more importantly who they need to deal with, so they can decide if they want to try to bypass this or sideline it for later on in the round should they not be feeling it. But definitely seems like we're once again going to have the very aggressive clear coming in from Mirage. 3 players committed to droning this out, gathering intel. Of course, trying to be careful to make sure they don't lose too many of those. 2 out of 3 of them are going to get taken down, but oh no, that's not the follow-up I was hoping for, actually. DarkZero thought they would have been able to lose a player there, but instead they pick up a frag against Nyx as the first one trying to put pressure onto the inside of theater. He's going to be taken down, potentially more to go down in the second here too. Hyper saw that wall panel fall down just a moment ago, is probably expecting a swing for the other direction at any moment. NJR looking put into a little bit of an awkward position now. He's going to deal with the air jab around the corner. Hyper potentially will have to watch out for that too if any of this soft wall behind him gets taken down. Thankfully, Ash won't be able to do that at a minimum, but doesn't mean something else can't take it out. Regardless, though, DarkZero doing a fantastic job of wasting time yet again, as Mirage has been trying to get Hyper out of here for the last minute and a half, and they've just now done it.
Delay was beautiful from DarkZero, but Hot and Cold with some nifty work of his own finally gets control of theater. Still a lot of default cams upstairs to give some intel towards these DarkZero members. NJR with an opportunity here. Oh no! He reads the situation so wrong, and Dream's actually sitting inside of 90. But a refrag comes through as Dream oversteps, and Eclipse takes him down from inside of Hookah. It's a 3v3, but this is exactly what we expected between these two coming into this last minutes. Now on to DarkZero's defensive setup. We still have Mint and Skies here with so much utility at their disposal, especially Skies with these toxic babes to try and delay time. Each one of those is 10 seconds. seconds, by the way, folks. And with 45 seconds remaining, this is not looking good for Mirage coming into these dying moments. Some nice setups here from DarkZero for some fantastic angles to hold over towards Aqua as well. And this is what this offense is starting to look like. But oh wait, the adjustment coming in from Mirage. Not loading, going over towards Hook, and I also think that we saw Benji making a play over towards the window for Hookah as well. So we could have possibly a pull here from Mirage to try and get the DarkZero members to focus on other things. Benji now forcing his way up the VIP hallway, takes down one, but he can't find Mint, who's laying down inside of the couches. Houghton gets one, can he get the second? They have the comms, 5 seconds remaining, SMG 11 in hand. Can he possibly do it for Mirage? No, he can't. Eclipse just too strong inside of the clutch as he claims round 13.
Another round where we're brought down to the timer, and unfortunately, as has been the story throughout this entire map, the attackers just cannot find the frags that are needed to win. That's going to put Mirage up against the wall for the first time in this map. DarkZero, now with the potential to take the series, as of course, guys, remember, we're on best of ones now, with a 8-6 victory, if they can repeat their feat now from the attacking side. At the same time, Mirage going to be looking to try and net themselves at least one more round here from the defense before they have to go back to the attack to try to close out.
And this is actually going to be the first time that DarkZero takes the lead in all of Coastline. It took all the way to overtime to finally see DZ pull ahead, but they've done it, and they have a great opportunity to close out, as Blue was just talking about. But that doesn't mean Mirage is going to take this lane down. They had a fantastic defensive half themselves, especially when it came to this kitchen site, where we saw both of their attempts be pulled off with flying colors. Mirage seemingly always wanting to double down on those frags and try and keep that man advantage as equal as possible. We'll see if this continues to ensue here on their first and only defense of overtime. But going back to these scoreboards, because we noted on these a little earlier on inside of this series, Dream and the rest of Mirage looked pretty solid across the board, most notably Hot and Cold 16, 2, and 9. But DarkZero have come into their own as with the update, the only member of the squad not over double digits right now is NJR. The rest of the team having double digits or, better, 10 or more. So some solid stuff happening for DarkZero now at a time where they so desperately needed it.
All right, so taking a peek here at the opening attack from DarkZero once again. This is interesting to note, as I've mentioned this a few times already, they've kind of struggled with a lot of the same things that Mirage did on their own attacking side here, and a lot of it comes down to the early rounds. So very important to pay attention to this next minute or two and see who comes out as the winner of that exchange. More than likely, that'll have pretty big implications as to who might be winning the actual round itself. If Mirage is able to once again bait down all this time, leave DarkZero, not even a kill against DarkZero, but with only a minute or so to clear things out. And then at the same time, if we see situations like this unfolding where Hot and Cold's able to find a pick, and as far as I can tell, it's going to go completely untraded, that's also going to put DarkZero into that same awkward position that I've been referring to.
I feel like Hot and Cold should just any team that DarkZero plays up against. Just the guy's practically clairvoyant. I mean, he's just seeing everything before it happens. All the frags falling into his backpack, and that thing's getting quite hefty at this point. But doesn't have to care about that one too much, as Mirage is still well within their right to try and take this map. DarkZero, a little slower to the upswing this time after NJR gets taken down early on. Some nice adjustments from Mirage, and another kill falls in off the folly of the Nitro Cell, but just one singular one that rings true onto Mint, and that's going to be so much damage done, as well as just look at the drone economy right now for DZ. NJR's dead. You can't use his hologram anymore, and you only have 2 active drones across the entire board. What do you do now? And now it happens once again, folks. Mirage, still with the aggressive plays, able to take down yet another member of DZ.
Oh, finally, the pendulum will swing the other direction, as Hyper is going to be able to pick up the first exchange in the round against Benji. Very small note at this point, considering they're already down to what was a 2v5 and is now a 2v4 here. Quite a few power positions that the members of DarkZero still have to clear out here, just inside of the lobby alone, not even counting the players back over towards Sunrise. And that's not even considering the fact that as soon as DarkZero reveal their push, Mirage is more likely going to rotate players into appropriate positions as well, which may explain the confirmation of this here before I speak. All right, never mind. I thought they were going to split push for a second. Not going to be the case. Hyper actually takes a little bit of heat as he tries to work his way in through the pool door because Hutton still here. The problem is, though, gives his tracers away. Hyper replies back, and his aim is going to be a lot better in this situation. He hits the headshot, and all of a sudden here, things aren't looking so great, but the problem still remains. That timer, which has plagued both of our teams so far in this map, have to try and brute force it in. Down goes Hyper. Sky's the only player that's left here now, trying to make a play, but it's not going to happen as Nyx gets both of the finalizing kills there, and we are going the full distance as we get ready to head into round number 15 to decide this map.
Both of these teams are just playing defense so well right now for Coastline. This is something that we don't see have to happen too often here, but it's just the early aggression that both of these teams are preventing with these setups. DarkZero most notably inside of Theater on their setups, but Mirage more of the same that what we saw with DZ, able to get those early frags, but it was more or less around that VIP area, and sadly, it hangs on NJR's head. I mean, he's been opening frags so many times inside of this series where it just comes back to question, why are you on an operator like Yana? You want to be able to use that hologram and help your team and, you know, get them some information, and he's just dying with utility in hand over and over again. It's just a really rough game for NJR right now, and I think with him firing on all cylinders like we'd expect from him, that DZ already closed this out, but now we're here, 7-7, and it's anybody's game. This could be the opportunity for NJR to step up when he's needed the most for this squad.
Going to do the alternate setup, I believe, for the Sunrise play because we have NJR coming in on the castle. So more than likely we'll see one of the soft panels either get left soft or blown up downstairs, and the main door gets castle barricade if it's the way I've seen it used in the past. Could play it like 2 or 3 other different ways too, so I'll hold my tongue a little bit here before we see the rest of the setup looks like, but I believe that's the path we are going down right now for DZ.
We'll have to find out here. Usually the castle setups here work out pretty well. It's just a really good LOS prevent. You know, you don't want to try and get anybody.
Okay, never mind. Oh, he's using them all upstairs. Okay, well, I was dead wrong then.
Just locking them out of sight.
Just,
you know,
the roaming castle apparently is what we got right now.
Upstairs only for the castle. I want to make sure that they can't try and get those crosses set up on the defensive players upstairs. But Mirage looking to clear through other means, actually, as right now we're going to have a drone working inside of service where Mint currently is. He has some opportunities to rotate out as well, but it seems as though he could honestly run into some problems. Already across being established through beer. Mint's getting droned once again. Don't necessarily think that you can get out of this as the kitchen window's now being held. Oh no, Mint, it's already been set up. You can't get out. From this moment on, it's literally just drones pouring in here and him trying to escape.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Nice
and
move.
I guess he's out.
The angles aren't being held from Mirage. They set them up and then they leave because why not? Well, I mean, why would we want the free kill anyways? Let's just not do that.
I guess, like, well, to be fair, like Mirage has been put into a situation so many times where they thought they had a kill like that, then they end up wasting a minute or two off the clock. So not really going to fault Mirage for passing on that kill possibility right there.
Oh, you absolute ghost. He gets out of kitchen. He just walked out.
There's no way he's getting
He just walked out. That's not supposed to happen. Oh my God.
There's no way Mint is just surfing crosshairs right now. Just going left and right against the Mirage roster and somehow getting avoided all this time. Like,
guys like oil with water. He's just going right around them. They can't get a beat on this guy's location. He's already left. That's half the round gone as well, all off the back of Mint's sly efforts. As for Mirage, though, they actually have quite a good attack happening across the board. About at the halfway point through the map here as they're cutting things up. Finally, a frag happens as Benji downs one, but it's actually going to be Mint, who was our Sly Cooper earlier on, but not going to be able to confirm that one just yet. Benji not too worried about it, to say the least, as they're trying to put pressure on the remainder of these DZ members, but do they know that there's still 2 DarkZero teammates upstairs?
That will all come to fruition here over the next 40 seconds as once again, Mirage going to be pitted against the timer and in fairly brutal fashion too. Mint's a dead man. There's no changing that. So this is going to go down to a 4v4. NJR, remember, on Castle does have that secondary shotgun, so he's going to open up some utility usage here. Skies with the Nitro will take out one, but not loading, finds the response. Benji holds the line at the door, but fails to account for the Cool Vibes player, and Hyper responds back. Another Nitro cell kill has left Nyx as the final player alive, and Hyper is going to shut him down as well. DarkZero take the 15th round, end the map and match along with it.
Oh my, I didn't even realize that Nyx was the last surviving member of Mirage there. I thought it was down to the 2v2 still, but not the case. DarkZero able to clutch things out on the defensive side of Coastline. This is unprecedented. This does not happen, folks. We have way more defensive rounds won between these two teams than we do have offensive rounds, and DarkZero able to win out against their ex-teammates on Mirage. Fantastic map in between these two, and you can't knock either of them. I mean, that was just such a strong showing.
I mean, you look at the scoreboards, and they're very, very close to each other as well. Some of those rounds were neck and neck and neck constantly. I mean, even looking at like the top and bottom kill potential there from the top and bottom members of each team in that match, it was like 17 and 6 and 16 and 6, or I think like 18 and 17, something around that line. But like, it was neck and neck with regards to that stat line. So considering that, this was a match that easily could have gone